Yeah, good morning everyone. We are gathered here to have a session of socio-cultural sustainability on education, right? Now we will start our session.
Good morning everyone. Are you from Australia? Hi. Hi, my name is Meghna. I'm the Executive Director for the University of Texas at Arlington, and I work with the Institute for Sustainability from Dallas, Texas, the place where the Dallas Cowboys have their stadium. Before I start, I just wanted to get a quick feel for who is in the room. I got to talk to these kids from high school, but I wanted to get a feel for this table and that table. If you don't mind introducing yourself.
We are students from Israel, engineering, industrial and engineering students.
Okay.
And we're in delegation here.
Okay. Well, nice to meet you all.
Tracy Horton from Australia.
Very nice to meet you.
Hi, my name is Tracy Chambers from Cape Town, South Africa, and I run an organisation which works with women in education as well as children in education, mainly focused on business skills.
Where are you hosting? This one?
I'm Ritu Pathak. I'm the principal of a school, senior secondary school here, and these are my students.
Alright, so this is a very informal setting, so if you have any questions, please feel free to interrupt me, stop me anytime. So the topic that I was given today to talk about was social and cultural sustainability in education. And when you look at it, it looks very simple, but when I started putting things together, I was totally lost, and this is my job, right? So to give you an idea of how broad the topic is. So I've tried to do it justice, trying to narrow it down with the focus for university and even more specifically education. So before I start with that, I wanted to give a background that I have a master's in environmental science and an MBA in sustainable management. And even though it's a management and a science degree, I think over the years I have found the perfect balance as it applies to an academic institutions, because I get to work with students from engineering, architecture, public planning, liberal arts, history, and so I learn from them as much as they learn from me, I hope. So when we talk about sustainability, everybody knows we have the three pillars of sustainability: social, economic, and environmental. And most of the time when people talk about sustainability, it's always the economic concept or the environmental concept. But the social aspect is something that gets neglected a lot of time. It is tailored more for non-profit and academic institution, but not so much for corporate. But that trend is changing. But when you talk about social sustainability, that's where the best way to fit cultural sustainability as well. Because I've realized in the past few years that every campus talks about sustainability in terms of, okay, how do you reduce your energy bills every month or every year? Putting these CFL bulbs or sensors, or having a performance management for your energy efficiency. And that's what people think when it comes about sustainability. But how do you get your students or faculty and staff to pay attention to what you're doing to save energy or save water or recycle? It is a very critical balance, and if you can achieve that balance, that's when you can get the buy-in from the higher management to not only give you funds, but also to sort of work with you in changing the culture of just not the campus, but also the community where you live in. So which is why I think social and cultural are very interactive, and you cannot talk about one without talking about the other. So before I talk about what we have done at campus, I kind of wanted to give you a feel of how big our campus is. It's 420 acres with over 110 buildings, and some of those buildings are as old as 1989. So when you're trying to do energy retrofit for something like that, it is really a challenge. We have construction projects which are over $300 million, including a research innovation building in construction as I speak. We have a $13.6 billion annual impact on the state of Texas in terms of the jobs created or the money that we fuel in the economy with the research that we do. We have a research expenditure of over $100 million every year. 60,000 students who are enrolled as part of the University of Texas Arlington, and we have over 180 degree programs, with engineering being the really popular, engineering and architecture being two really popular programs. Next one. So how do you talk about social, cultural, sustainability and education? Well, these are the 5 points I could think of. So how do you talk about the campus programs with tying in an assessment to it? Sort of an interdisciplinary approach to education or courses on campus, service, learning and community project, surveys and stakeholder engagement. This is more of a GRI term, but I'll explain what it means, and monitoring and reporting. So I'll give you an example of every slide, but here's an overview of what we do on campus, right? So I do sustainability in operations, but also academics and research. So that includes everything from outreach and education, which is what I'm doing right now. Buildings, like I talked about, energy efficiency for buildings or having green buildings on campus. Climate change, which is not a very popular topic coming from the place I am, Texas. I can't even say climate change, but I put it in there to tell you that we do a lot of work on carbon management. That's what I call it. So I don't say climate change. Academics, how do you work with faculty and staff and PhD students on campus? Dining services, because you have 60,000 students, you have to feed those students. So how do you incorporate sustainability and a culture of sustainability in the dining rooms where students eat and waste a lot of food? Energy and water consumption, not just for campus but the dorms. So we have 6 big dorms on campus which have over 12,000 students residing in them. So how do you educate those students about water conservation, energy conservation? Landscape, like I said, we have a really good program for landscape architecture. Purchasing, this is more on the management side. Transportation, this is something that really applies to the students because you want to provide them means to move around the campus so that they don't bring their own cars. And waste reduction. So I'll give you a snapshot of what we have done. So to have some behavior of sustainability on campus, we sort of, in 2015, we came up with these goals. And we just wanted to focus on key areas and not just tackle everything. So we said, okay, let's just focus on energy, green buildings, transportation, recycling, and water conservation, because you can connect these to what the students do on campus. And set up a goal of, say, let's just reduce everything or improve by 2020 using 2005 as baseline. And so since we did this in 2015 and used 2005 baseline, and since then we have made quite a progress. I mean, this data that I have is still from 2015, and I'm working on updating the data for the last 5 years. But we got a 33% increase in diversion of our municipal waste to the landfill, and this is solely because we educate the students on campus on recycling. We have put a bin next to every trash bin, so the student knows that if they have to throw trash, there's a recycle bin just next to it, so they can't come up with an excuse that, oh, I don't have a recycle bin, I'm just going to throw this in trash. Water conservation, we installed, we have a contract with Pepsi, and Pepsi came up with these dream machines where if you collect bottles and it's sort of like a vending machine where you put in the bottle and the number of bottles that you put in, like used plastic bottles, you get points. And you can redeem those points in any place on cafeteria. Say if you want to buy a pizza and you have 20 points, you can get the pizza for free without having to pay for it. So I have seen students collect plastic bottles in a big bag and start getting points, and then they're recycled. So this whole system of gamification and sort of rewarding the students for their good behavior really works well on campus. Next one. This is the Pepsi green machine that I was talking about. And since we have a contract with Pepsi, they gave us these machines for free. So they gave us as many as we wanted, and we put them all across campus, and students recycle and get points for their campus purchase. We launched another program which is called Reusable Cup. So, in the US, everybody has this tendency to have recycled bottle, and we want to avoid that. A bottle water, and then they throw away the bottle, and then we have to make an effort to ask them to recycle it. So there's a company called Companion, and this is a Canada-based company. So what they have done is they provide these cups, plastic cups. Oh, they're not plastic, but BPA free, stainless steel. They have like 15 different varieties, and you can pick whichever you want. And they will put a scanning app. It's an app-based program, so they'll put like a scanner code on the bottle, and you give this to your students and tell them that every time they use that cup in the cafeteria, again they get the points. And they can track the points through their app, so all they have to do is launch the app every time they use the cup, and it will scan their points, and you build those points, and then you redeem them for stuff in the cafeteria or the bookstore. So it's sort of a game, and the more you engage with the students on this, the more they are sort of into it, and they want to buy. So recently we had the Earth Day celebration on campus, April 21st, and we gave this away. We gave away like 500 of those cups for free, because we want them to use this as an opportunity to get the cup, go to the cafeteria, and start using them instead of buying one bottle every time and throwing it away in the trash. We did another event called Weigh the Waste, where students go to the cafeteria, they take the plate, they put the food, they'll eat a little bit, and then they'll throw it all away. And that's a lot of liability at our end, because we are not only spending on the food, but now we also have to take care of the waste. So we got a couple of student volunteers and lined them up in the cafeteria, and every time a student comes back with a plate of full with food trying to throw it, we take the plate, we weigh it, and we tell them this is how much you are wasting. And we did this for like 900 to 1,000 students over 3 days period, and sort of collected the data and put it on social media, saying, okay, you students are wasting so much food. And some of them were so ashamed that they have stopped like taking as much food on their plate and wasting it. So that has also helped us sort of bring about this culture of and consciousness about wasting food. And then for faculty and staff, we have this office green team program where we sort of have developed like 20 points. If you put a recycle bin, if you turn off your computers, if you have sensors, based on the points and the ideas that you pick, we give every department a certification, and it can be gold, silver, lead, or platinum, depending on how many points they have achieved for their green team. Next one. So in interdisciplinary education, we sort of try to integrate various disciplines like liberal arts, history, environmental science, urban planning, engineering, and even business into one minor, which is called as the sustainability minor. So student can take courses, and we have some criteria, take 2 courses from Core A and 3 courses from Core B, but they can take a variety of courses like this, say principles of environmental engineering to historic preservation and restoration. They can take any combination from the 200 courses that we list, and at the end, when they graduate, their transcript will say, okay, they have graduated with a sustainability in minor, and that really helps, and they like it. Some of the community projects, we have a community garden on campus, which we started in collaboration with the city, where we got the city to give us the money. UTA had a lot of land, and we launched this community garden for, say, 80 residents, where people from the community can come and do their own gardening, and it's all organic gardening, so you're not allowed to use pesticides or any of those things. But they own the plot, they can come and they can grow their food, and they can donate if they want, or they can take it home. So I'm almost done. The stakeholder engagement that we did, we sort of did a survey, and we do this every 6 months to every year, sort of just reach out to all the stakeholders on campus, which includes faculty, staff, students, but also external stakeholders, which is like local government, non-profit, to see what do they think is important. Which aspect of sustainability to them is important? Is it social, economical, or environmental? And we kind of do these surveys, and based on their survey, we try to implement programs on campus. And this is just an example of how the surveys are, and to give you an idea of what kind of questions we put in the survey. So what kind of topics would you like to see, in a certificate program in sustainability? And these are the topics people came up with. And we wanted to launch a bike share program on campus, and so we launched this survey. So it kind of gives us an idea of what they want, what they feel, and then helps us tailor the program. I'm going to skip that because I don't have time. Go ahead. All right, so in the end, I just wanted to say that, being on a campus, it's very important to communicate and educate the students, because if they don't see it, they don't think about it. So the biggest thing, my biggest challenge is to make sure it's everywhere where they walk, through videos, through bins, flyers, events, And that's the best way that I've seen to engage students on campus, and that is the only way I can bring this culture of sustainability and help them recycle, conserve water, or anything that we want, which is also part of our strategic plan. And here's my contact information. I have some business cards if anybody would like to have one. But you can reach out to me anytime. I have a lot of information about every project on our website, sustainability.uta.edu, so you can get access to everything that I talked about, since I had like 15 minutes to talk about. Any questions? All right. Well, thank you. If you have, you can always reach me on my email. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am. Now we are here with Priyanka Raheja, right? Good morning, everyone. Myself, Priyanka Raheja. I'm teaching economics at GD Goenka Public School, Sector 22, Rohini. I actually came prepared with this to speak, but now I'm going to leave it here, and whatever I'm going to speak, that will be directly from the heart. So, as I told you that I teach economics, so in class 10th economics, there is a chapter sustainable development. And we make students learn that sustainable development is development in past without compromising the needs of future generations. And then they come up with various ideas that how sustainable development can be promoted. So ideas are just like saving the environment, use of non-conventional sources, and such that. But after I got this topic, I just wondered, why do we just talk about sustainability in terms of environment? As the topic says, socio-cultural sustainability. So if we need to preserve our environment, don't we need to preserve our social values? Actually, are we working towards it? Nowadays, situation has changed a lot. When we were kids, we used to greet our teachers, but nowadays, they hardly bother to stand up and say good morning. So this just one small example was there in my mind while I was writing this, that who is at fault? Are we at fault? Is our education system is at fault? Or as parents we are at fault? So what I feel is that education starts from home. Nowadays what is happening? Mother is sitting with phone in hand. WhatsApp, Facebook, updating things there. Are we teaching them right values? I don't think so. Being a mother, even I'm on this, same grounds. At times my son, he's playing his own laptop and there with my own phone. So what are we doing? Are we doing something to preserve our cultural values, our social values? I don't think so. So I just want to show a video. It's video from second school, Egypt. They are actually working towards promoting sustainable development in education with special focus on socio and cultural development. Just have a look at the video and then I will continue.
a holistic mindset in order to be solved sustainably. Shall we give up now? We need to increase our actions to uncover and awaken the change-making urges and actions. This is our way of addressing the burning issues. By awakening the inner love and passion to be responsible for our home and all that it needs. Over the last years, therefore, we want to build on the initial seed of centralization and strengthen it to become bigger, have more impact, and consciously experiment with and develop new educational models. We want to awaken the change makers in our children, and we want to support this new generation to know how to be themselves, how to think, how to live together, how to act, and from that to transform themselves at work. We are a team of experienced, but more importantly, passionate people who are determined to make a difference. And we want this new wave of youth engagement to go hand in hand with the new wave of raising funds. Also, we show our kids what is possible in today's world. We are reaching out.
So this school works on the basis of sustainable development, and for them sustainable development doesn't stop with the environmental concern. They believe in holistic development of the child, and this is something which I think is missing in Indian education system. India has a very rich cultural heritage. We boast of our rich cultural heritage we had in past. But nowadays, education is just about giving money, securing a seat for your child in school with centralized AC. A child doesn't know what's the value of, as she was talking about, saving food. We have seen that in cafeteria, students throw food like anything. So we also started with a similar program as she was talking about. We started giving badges to our kids. It was like Save Food badge. So whenever they used to show us the plate, the empty plate, we gave them these badges. This worked for 1 year and we could see it brought about a little change in their mentality. Then we also worked with another organization named as Humana. Our kids used to visit there. It's an organization there in Gurgaon. We used to take our kids on monthly basis there. Once in a month visit was conducted for them, and there they taught those students. The students at Humana were from the underprivileged sector. So our students taught them basic things like swing, painting, pottery and all, which they learned in school, and with the help of that, those underprivileged students can secure some work. And as a result of learning those skills, students at Humana, they were able to earn money. They made those pots, beautiful paintings and all, which we sold in our school. So this was just a little initiative which was there from our school to help underprivileged students and to bring about something which is known as cultural sensitization. But unfortunately, we are closed in what? In a wall, which is the wall of curriculum, and it was discontinued. So, according to me, if we want our social and cultural values to sustain, then I think we need to come out of these four walls of centrally AC building. We need to go ahead. We need to go out. We need to reach those who are underprivileged. We need to give what they want. And this can be done only when we keep books away and open our mind and be sensitive towards these issues. And education not only starts from school, it starts from family. So we as parents are first teachers, and then comes the school, and then universities. So I think this holistic development will take place when all of us will join hands and work together towards this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now we have Purvi Ahuja as educator from India. Good morning, everyone. It's kind of disappointing to now stand here when Ms. Tane and Ms. Priyanka have already spoken whatever I had planned to.
So I'll also try to go with the flow and see if there's anything left there. So there are discussions that I began my journey as an educator last year only. I used to label myself as a scholar earlier. I proudly label myself. When my relatives started asking me that, what are you really doing in life? And I would tell them I'm studying. And they would tell me that, studying is not doing. And at that time, I used to take it as an offense, but now I'm realizing that yes, studying is not only doing, there's so much scope. So when I started interacting with students, one of them being my own brother, happens to be one of the most nagging students that I have found yet. So we used to discuss a lot of issues. Feminism was his favorite, and I would not discuss because it happened to be my favorite too, as we had opposing views. So when I was working on this, I did discuss with him that what is sustainability according to him. Now he's just passed from class 12, so I was expecting some really, really scholarly answer. But he said something as simple like roti kapra makan. So he's quite a Bollywood freak that way. So I could understand why he would say something like this. Very simple answer, and the way in which we have also imagined sustainability has been limited to environmental factors. So we often think whenever sustainability comes to mind, the way we teach, the way we imagine, the way I have been taught, it has always been environment. But now when we talk about this topic, socioculture, it was when I began thinking about it, I realized that there's a lot to do about sustainability, there's a lot to think about in the terms of how a society grows, how a culture evolves, and how we need to protect societies, cultures, treat them as these little microcosms that can cause a lot of change in the world, not just in the way we imagine it in the terms of environment sustainability, but also in this holistic growth, as both speakers have already mentioned here. So I happen to define sustainability in my own ways, trying to understand this as this linchpin through which all other structures or through all other systems can be understood. So one such structure, because I belong to the field of education, so one such structure I could envision for myself is how education and sustainability can be connected. So they share a dialectical relationship, of course. In one way, sustainability affects education because it is a part of your curriculum and you need to teach. In the classroom, Ms. Tari has already briefed us about it. There are so many things that you can do to teach sustainability, not just as a concept, but at the same time, you need to see how it can be practically implemented. And at the same time, you need to look at it how it can, the process of sustainability can affect education. So how can we make our education policies, how can we redefine our education policies in a way that we keep into mind these sustainable goals? For this, I have one example of Riverbend School that has been started in Chennai a few years ago. So we look at this and so what I seem to gather from what I had studied theoretically about education and when I started teaching was this, that we take sometimes changes in life to be on a very massive scale. So you need to employ some strategies, you need to think about big things so that you can cause a change. But sometimes it can be as simple as keeping the happiness of students, keeping the happiness of people first, and you see that sustenance is something that will come on by itself. So if I'm teaching and if I'm ensuring that my students are happy, my students know how to value each other, how to respect each other, then I believe that the other processes may follow. It may take a little time, but then it's not something that I have to employ, it's not something that I need to reward, and it's not something that I definitely have to enforce upon them. So for me, this model, which also is developed by Curtin Development Center, where they keep child as the center and other things. Now, of course, in one way when we talk about sustainability, we look at things interconnected to each other. But when I talk about education and when I keep child as the center, so what I'm taking into consideration is that his or her happiness is first to me. And now I will see how society, politics, economics try to, facilitate this happiness or meddle with this happiness in some way or the other. And now all the sustainability measures that I take up in my classroom will have to be governed by these factors. I will have to check whether my child's happiness is really at the center or not. So inclusion has been one great principle that we are working on in India these days. And it's so heartening to see that we have opened up our schools to students from, and this is something that we also have as a culture here, that we tend to open ourselves to people who we don't know. So valuing strange relationships and valuing conversations, dialogue. A great teacher and philosopher, Jiddu Krishnamurti, he really focused his educational theories on the spirit of dialogue, saying that if we talk to each other, then we do not have to take care of the future. The future will take care of itself. So it's the present that we need to build. It's the present where we need to think about sustainability and not in the future. And when we talk about sustainable reforms, we often tend to think how is it going to impact our future, or what strategies can we employ so that our future is secure. But the way I see the present rolling on, and especially in the classroom, some of the students ask really witty questions. So I teach in a school that is centrally air conditioned, and once I happened to talk about poverty, and one student raised up a question that it's kind of ironic that we're talking about poverty in a centrally air conditioned school. And valid point. So when we talk about sustainability, we need to see how it is impacting our present and not our future. We need to see how and what measures can we take right now to ensure our children's happiness, not some strategies. Perhaps it will help in the long run, but before that, some strategies that we can employ to ensure that our children are happy, and it's not just something that we are envisioning and repeating as something related to future. So this movie also focused on a school as a little village, and then there's this Japanese tradition of practicing minimalist living. So coming from there, I happened to watch a movie called Little Forest. So it was a movie in 4 parts. If you look at it at a very surface level, the movie will appear to be as something that's perhaps an anthem of a food blogger. So there are vivid images of a woman, a very strong and a very inspiring woman, living alone in a village called Kamori, which is literally translated which is literally translated as a little forest. So this woman is growing everything right from the seed, trying to make those dishes herself using her mother's recipe. So for me, sometimes sustainability can be something as simple as this. When you're living with your traditional values, when you're living in a culture and in an environment that is facilitating your growth, that is facilitating how you are using your resources, how you are growing your resources. So this sense of responsibility when I'm teaching or when I'm looking at something is very important for me. And I think for me that summarizes the entire essence of sustainability, that we have to look at society, culture as an evolving mechanism, not something that is static, not as something that where we can sit comfortably right now and say that, okay, these are 1, 2, 3 changes that I want to bring in, and let me see how they'll be implemented. But something that we recognize that as a culture, as a society, we're always moving. So our ideas of sustainability have to be something that is going to address all this movement and still be static in its own form. So difficult balance to maintain, but I think sustainability is all about maintaining a balance, as Ms. Tari had remarked. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now we have another speaker, Pratibha Prahlad. I think she is not available right now. So sorry for that, she is not available right now. Now we can wind up this session, as education is a very important part in our life. They should. We got to know so many innovative ideas we are doing in the world. What we can do to educate the children or to preserve our nature environment. So very good to listen all the speakers. Thank you so much. So we can have a group photograph for this session.
Wait. Just wait. You are low. You're low. Sorry. एक मिनट wait मैम. Just wait. Record नहीं कर. Okay ma'am.